Friends, before we start this podcast, I just want to thank all of you who have come alongside us in this week to week podcast and have supported us with our coffee campaign.
Mhm.
Uh, so many of you reached out and let me know that, hey, the commercials in your area were not things you wanted to hear, especially with kids or grandkids in the car. And I never want to put something out there that doesn't align with my values. And although we don't all necessarily have exactly the same values, I don't want it to trample on your values either. So many of you have come alongside. You've done a one time or a monthly donation over at the coffee campaign. And I just want to say thank you. If that's something that you would like to partner with us on this podcast, if you go to Kathi, that's KATHI.link/coffee, that will take you to our coffee campaign. And even $5 a month makes a huge difference in our ability to plan and produce these podcasts. But really here, whether you listen, you support, however you interact with the podcast, can I just say thank you? I'm so grateful for each and every one of you. Okay, now on with the show. Well, hey friends, welcome to Clutter Free Academy, where our goal is to help you take small, doable steps every day
Mm.
to live with less clutter and more life. And if you are somebody who does not currently have a spotless living room, uh, this podcast is for you because for many of us, our homes are not company ready. I will tell you, we threw a party for my friend Susie. Yeah, it's been about 9 days ago. And for about 12 minutes, my house was as close to perfect as it was ever going to get. And then you know what came and ruined it all? Humans. Humans came and but here's the thing, guys. Hospitality is the heartbeat of a home.
Amen.
And perhaps you are mid-project, mid-clutter, mid-life. If you're in the mid, this episode is for you. My friend Sue Donaldson wrote Never Alone, Stories of Invitation and Connection. And she's basically the patron saint of planned hospitality that still feels human. Sue, welcome to the podcast. We're so glad to have you this week.
Thank you so much. I didn't know what to think when I was invited on a clutter-free podcast because I'm not clutter-free, but I do have lots of people in my life and a dog too that makes a mess.
Yeah, and you still practice hospitality
Oh yeah.
on the regular. You invite people
Mhm.
over. You have lots of ways of doing this.
Mhm.
And so a couple of things, I'll just tell you what I want to talk to you about today. I mean, you
Okay.
can tell that we do not send notes to our guests ahead of time because that's not a fun conversation. But I want to talk a couple of things I want to talk about.
Okay.
One, how to practice hospitality without necessarily inviting people into your home, because I have been in that place where my house was so far gone. It's not that I just wouldn't be comfortable, my guests wouldn't be comfortable. And
Mm.
so I know that, you would have some strategies around that. How do you host when your house isn't perfect without shame spiraling? And I would love, like I said, we haven't talked about this before, but I just know you're an expert on this. I like to call it a minimum viable company ready plan. Like,
Okay.
what are the minimum things you need to do? But we're not going to do all of that at once.
Okay.
Um, okay. So here's the thing. I love hospitality. I also love not panic cleaning. And
Yes.
so I want to talk about the overlap of that. Uh, your book is about invitation and connection. What do you mean by invitation? Like, are you talking about printed invitations that you're sending out? What do you mean
Mhm.
invitation?
Well, I think it comes from a heart to invite people into your life. So not necessarily your
Mm,
house.
mhm.
And I think the Holy Spirit gives you checks in your spirit when it's time not to invite because there are boundaries, which I probably shouldn't jump right to that. But some people might be thinking, oh, I wouldn't want that person in my life, much less in my home. And
Right.
and I used to work in a thrift store, and we would get a variety of customers. And
Mhm.
my husband works with the VA, so he gets a
Yeah.
variety of patients. And one
Yeah.
time I texted him, I said, can I invite this homeless person who's a vet over? And
Mhm.
he said no. And that's not a normal response for him. The next
Mm.
time there was a homeless person, not a vet, it doesn't have to be a vet. And I really felt that we needed to invite him over. And what I
Yeah.
did was I have an open house Christmas Eve. Now let me tell you the background for
Uh-huh.
that. That was because my husband's a physician, and so he couldn't get Christmas off. And I would try not to be mad, because I'm happy that I'm married.
Right.
I'm happy
Right.
that I'm married and that he has a paycheck, right? But I
Yes.
would get sad because I'm
Mhm.
from a big family and we do Christmas big and we couldn't travel. So about 20 years ago, I started hosting an open house to invite other people who didn't have extended family.
Mm.
Because to me, Christmas is family. Besides Jesus in the manger, Christmas is
Right.
family. And
Yeah.
so anyway, that year I said to this lovely man, it's a chapter in my book, actually, his name is Doug. And I said, Doug, what are you doing for Christmas Eve? He goes, well, I'm hoping to go down to my brother's. Well, that didn't sound very likely. So about a week
Mhm.
later, because he came in every day to the thrift store
Yeah.
and he had a lovely voice. He would sing along with the Christmas CDs, and I said, you really should join the choir. And finally I said, would you like to come to the Christmas Eve soup potluck? And he said, okay, what can I bring? And I didn't really want him to bring anything, but he goes, I can bring cheese and crackers. I said, great. So I bought him a plate right there off the shelf
Mhm.
and he came. And that was the beginning of about 10 years with Doug. And he ended up coming to
Mm.
church. Someone from church got him a home, apartment to
Oh,
live
wow.
in. And he joined the choir
Wow.
and our kids loved him. So I'm not sure how I was answering this question, but sometimes, oh yeah, God led me.
What is invitation?
Oh yeah, what is invitation? It's to listen to the Lord and invite anybody that God puts in your path. That's the way I look at it.
Okay.
Because you know why? Let me tell you the reason. This is why I like to talk about it because it's how people say even in the business world to know your why. Because if you know your
Yes.
why, like know your why, Kathy,
Mhm.
and I know my why. But our
Mm.
why, everybody who follows Jesus, the why for invitation is Jesus invited you. And all
Mm.
we do is pass on the invitation. And so if we live an inviting life, then someone else might know for the first time ever that God invited them. And it doesn't
Ooh.
mean I share the gospel. You know, I
Mhm.
rarely sit down with 4 spiritual laws with someone at my table for the first time.
Right. Right.
Rarely. It happens
Yeah.
on occasion that God will open that door. But when
Mhm.
they say, hey, I can go to Sue's when I have no place else to go,
Mm.
that's
Yeah.
the gospel. That's the gospel.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. And we all need that safe place, that
Right.
place where we can come as we are. I know that you plan for hospitality. Obviously, your Christmas Eve, you've been planning that for what does planning make possible that winging it doesn't? Because there are times to wing it.
Mm. Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
Oh, totally.
We had somebody show up at our house. This is also a Christmas Eve story. We had somebody show up at our house Christmas Eve. Well, I guess it was Christmas Day because it was 1 a.m. Who what
Wow.
got turned around and lost in the
Oh,
snow.
yeah.
And, so we had
That's
a very
hospitality.
yeah, that was extreme hospitality,
Yeah.
and of course, we were going to invite her in, but
Right.
there are things that planning invites that winging it doesn't. What does
Hmm.
planning do for you?
Planning helps me feel free to focus on the guest.
Mm,
If I
yes.
don't plan, I'm more worried about what am I going to feed them?
Mhm.
Um, do I need fresh towels in the guest bathroom? Whatever. And
Yeah.
I'm not a very good cleaner. So I so if someone surprises me, I mean, I used to have a friend who would knock on the door and say, "Hello, anybody home?" and come on in every day, not every day, but
W
once a week after work
wow.
because we were so close. And she would just
Yeah.
start she would start folding the laundry that, of course, was on the couch for me
Oh,
and put the tea
wow.
kettle on because she preferred tea over coffee. Okay, that's an unusual thing. That's a close friend. But
Right,
let me
right.
tell you, this goes back to the Christmas Eve thing too. One Christmas Eve, we go to church for about an hour and then we come over. But there was this lady I just met. Someone introduced me to her. She was new to the area from Chicago. I'm on the central coast of California, by the way. And I said, "Would you like to come to our house?" See, because it was planned, this goes to your question.
Mhm.
Because I knew I had made 3 soups and 6 other people were coming who were making soups. That's a plan. I knew I'd
Yes,
have enough soup, right? She
right.
said, "Oh, I'm waiting for my married son to come. I'm hoping he'll come to church and then I can go to his house." I said, "Fine." But I gave her my
Mhm.
number. And about
Right.
5 minutes after church, I'm driving home and I get a text from her. "Can I still come?" See, that broke my
Mm,
heart that her son did
right,
invite her, but
right.
she's been several times. So what we
Mhm.
do is when the food is planned or whatever needs planning, you have the freedom then to
Yeah.
invite large or invite one-on-one. And, one tip that's really been fun to use when I speak on this is when I make chocolate chip cookies, I'll double the recipe and I'll put them into cookie dough logs into wax paper.
Mhm.
My mom used wax paper, whatever you use. And so I have these frozen logs. And one time I used to teach high school, and this former student was gonna come visit me. I totally forgot. And,
Mm.
she comes to the door, I go, "Oh my gosh, Karen, come on in." And I put the coffee on, but I was able to pull out a frozen log and
Yeah.
defrost it slightly. Be careful of the microwave. Defrost it slightly and stick
Yes.
it in, and while the oven's heating, mine takes about 10 or 15 minutes to heat, I was able
Yeah.
to, put these cookies in, and later she puts on Facebook, "And Sue even had homemade cookies." I go, "Yeah, but I forgot you were coming." You know? That's a gracious guest.
Oh my goodness.
But
That's
see,
so lovely.
if you have the logs,
Mhm.
anything like that, I've found that chocolate helps make a friend. And so if you just
Yes.
have a little bit of you know what I used to buy from Costco or, those green wrapped mints? You know those little mints they used to give them at restaurants at the end of the
Oh, yeah,
meal?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I forgot what they're called, cream nip and whatever. And so if I kept those in the
Oh,
freezer,
they're called like, 5 o'clock or 7 o'clock.
I
It's a time. It's the
I don't know.
chocolate mints?
Yeah, and they're in
Yeah.
a green foil, like a rectangle.
Yes,
Anyway,
yes.
so if I put that on a teacup, it will defrost while you're boiling the water for tea. So I found that chocolate helps make a friend. You don't have to serve,
Oh.
but if you have those, if you have them, you know you have
Yeah.
them. Like the other day, and we
Yes.
have these new neighbors. They're so great. They have 2 little kids, and this little cute mother, she does Friday treat time. So she'll text me and say, "Tatum and I just made vanilla cupcakes. Can we bring some to you?" And I
Oh,
said, "Absolutely, not that I need more frosting, but I was gonna be a gracious receiver." And
absolutely.
this was last Friday. So they come over and I pull out a chocolate chip cookie dough log, and I
Mhm.
show little Tatum, who's 7, how do I do this? And I gave it to her and they go, "Okay, we'll cook these tomorrow night." And I said, "Can Tatum come over sometime and we'll do these cookie making together?"
Oh, I love it.
It's fun.
To give people's kids an extended family,
Oh,
the
yeah,
the neighbors, the church members, the school, it's such a gift to
yeah,
have these layers of people. What a beautiful thing. Okay,
yeah.
we're going to take a quick break.
Okay,
And when we come back, I want to talk about hospitality when your house is in recovery mode, because we have
okay.
all been
Been
there.
there.
We'll be right back. Hey, friends, if you are not part of Clutter Free Academy on Facebook, why not? It's free. You've got about 16 or 17,000 of your best friends over there who are also struggling with clutter. So there's no shame in
Mhm.
our game. We talk about the podcast, we talk about your decluttering projects, and we spur each other on in order to get our houses to be those places of peace. All you have to do is go to Facebook and search for Clutter Free Academy. You have to answer a couple of questions because we don't let bots in. And that's it. You will start your clutter free journey over there.
Mm,
We're
mm.
excited to have you. Okay, back to the program. Okay, so I want to know, when you're planning to welcome people, what are some non-negotiables for you? Like with your house, for me, kitchens and bathrooms have to be clean. Like, I can handle almost anything else. A
Mhm.
laundry basket can go a long way to piling things up if you need to, but I wanna make sure the bathrooms are clean and the kitchen is clean because I don't want people questioning what I'm serving them or afraid to use the bathroom. What are your non-negotiables when you have people come over?
Well, if I know they're coming over, there's a difference.
Mhm.
Um, is the bathroom as well, just that there's no ring around the toilet and
Yeah.
that the kitchen counter is clean and a fresh towel, a hand towel.
Mhm. Yeah.
And then sometimes when I have overnight guests, if they've left the towels out, I want to make sure those are all out, just so it looks more
Mhm.
ready. And
Yeah.
then for the kitchen, it's hard because I am a piler, and
Mhm.
so I like to have just the front part of my dining table clear so that we can sit down
Yeah.
with two cups of coffee, mine and a friend's. Or sometimes I'll
I
just
love that you are not saying the whole table.
no,
Like even just a portion, right?
yeah,
Because
I do.
you're talking to thousands of cluttery people here who
Yeah,
feel like, there have to be fresh flowers in the middle. We
oh,
put our standards too high.
exactly.
And yes, just a corner of the table will do when you need it. I interrupted your next thought, but I
Yeah.
just wanted to call that out, Sue.
No, no, it's fine. I don't think you know the story about me, Kathy, but we went through a 13-year remodel. And for 15 years, I had been saying to my dear husband, um, I sure would like a bigger kitchen because I have a big house but a
Mhm.
small kitchen.
Mhm.
And it's a whole story. We could just do a talk about that sometime, but I won't. But we started this remodel and he pushed out the front of the house 12 feet and we only had Tyvek paper, that white paper
Oh
on these
yeah.
big windows and it was freezing. And even though it's California, it's cold at night.
Yeah.
And and I still had body shop parties, 20 women coming into my house with these little tubs
What are body
because
shop parties?
a body shop is kinda like Pampered Chef where people will sell cream and feet things, so everybody had a little
Oh,
tub,
okay.
put their feet in
Yeah.
hot water, maybe that kept them warm because they had hot water. But, I mean and the rain would come in and it soak the carpet, so then we ripped the carpet out, much earlier than we were ready to. So, my
Yeah.
house was, cold and dirty, and mice were running down the hall for a long
Oh,
time. And,
wow.
but I kept having company because for one thing, I had a great excuse not to have a clean house.
Yes,
I
absolutely.
remember I used to work at Pottery Barn because I needed drapes and, you get
Mhm.
40% off. And so
Right.
I would get to be friends with these other ladies about my age who were also working there for the same reason. And so
Mhm.
I had this one friend over and she goes, "You were not kidding," because, there was no no windows and no
Oh my
floors.
goodness.
But I was able to cook. The whole time I was able to
Yeah.
cook. And and so that didn't matter because I could concentrate on her. I
Mhm.
if we get
Right.
over the whole our I think a lot of our hospitality, we're stuck in because we have to get over ourselves.
Yes,
And the
yes.
person at our table needs to know they're valued. And sometimes they just want to be invited. They don't really want to come, but they like the idea
Mm.
that someone invited them.
Right.
Um, but I told my husband, I said, I can endure this remodel if you take me out to eat about every 2 weeks. And if we get heat on the house, we finally got heat,
Yes.
you know. Um,
Okay.
and I tell a story in this book about the owner of Apple Farm Inn. I don't know if you've ever been to Apple Farm in San Luis
No?
Obispo, but the former owner um, went through a terrible divorce after 40 years.
Mm.
And
Mm.
then she owned a furniture store, and I worked there. And she told me once at work, she said, I don't know how to use my new Pampered Chef can opener. I said, well, let me help you. So I came
Yeah.
over to her house and then she just said, I just don't like eating alone. Now she was my
Mm.
boss. She wasn't
Mhm.
just a peer, but
Right.
that called to me, Kathy, because we don't want to
Mhm.
eat alone if we
Yes.
are used to being with the man for 40 years. So I said,
Yeah.
would you like to come to my house? Now, this is a woman who is an interior designer and my house was in the
Yeah.
middle of the remodel. So what I
Right.
did was I met her at the door with one of those, neck wraps. I'd made neck wraps, out of
Yeah.
an old tablecloth. I can't sew, but I can do a straight stitch. So
Right.
I made these and she stayed and stayed and stayed, and we just kept reheating the neck wraps. And she wanted to be around my husband because she liked having a man in her life. And now we're
Mhm.
friends, and she and her new husband, that's another miracle story. They come for Christmas Eve soup potluck and bring me See's candy.
Oh,
So it's a long-term story, but it came from the fact that I didn't care what my house looked like.
yeah. I love that so much. And that's where friendships are forged.
Exactly.
In the struggle, in the not perfect. Okay,
Mhm.
so how do you handle the mental load, the food, the time, and the cleanup without making it a production? Because I have been at people's houses where
Yeah.
they have put on a show,
Yeah.
and that's uncomfortable.
Right.
But I still want to, so I don't want to put on a production. I want to be the easy breezy hostess, but I also want to make sure that things are happening and people are like, wow, I can't find a clean dish anywhere.
Yeah.
That
Right.
we're not that extreme, but I want to make
Yeah.
sure that things are easy and accessible for my guests. So
Right.
how do you handle all that without a mental load?
Well, bottom line, it's called practicing hospitality for a reason. The more you
Mhm.
practice, the more at
Mhm.
ease you are, and you figure out things that are your style. You figure
Yeah.
out your own style. Your style might be pizza, order out pizza, and sit on the floor with paper plates. If that's your
Yeah.
style, Kathy, people will love to be invited. For one thing, I think pizza's expensive, so that's not my style.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Right.
And, but my style might be to use china because I like plates and I collect them
Yeah.
like I probably need another china hutch, which I should not be saying on a Clutter Free Academy podcast. But I do use my china because my mom raised
Right.
us that way.
Yeah.
And I do it for my own joy. What I want to
Right.
say is that entertaining is a beautiful gift that some people have.
Yeah.
Hospitality is a commandment by God, and
Right.
when we're not practiced at it, God just says, "That's okay. You
Yeah.
obey, and I give you the strength, and I give you the opportunity." And then you find that you're more at ease the more you do it.
Mhm.
So, you asked me for tips. I have these old these old forks that I found in my mom's garage after she passed away, because she
Mhm.
was a big, hospitality person, and they're really cheapy metal. They're the cheapy metal,
Okay.
like, if someone threw them
Yeah.
away, it would be okay, but she must have
Right.
had 100 of them, and I keep them in 2, mason jars, and so, like, the other day, a single gal at my church said, "Would you host my baptism celebration brunch?" I said, "Sure." And I just pull out those mason jars full of forks, and I actually used throwaway plates that day because it was so last
Mhm.
minute that she asked me.
Right.
But so those are tips that help me.
Yeah, and I will say to the pizza idea, one thing that Roger and I did a few years ago is we got a pizza oven.
Oh, yeah, we did too.
And yeah, and you know what? Making dough costs almost no money.
Mhm.
And if you know in advance and people, somebody's bringing the mozzarella, somebody else is
Yeah,
bringing the fresh basil, that's a great way of doing a pizza party with no, without the expense.
yeah.
Also, I just saw this great idea. I think it was on Instagram where this little community of moms, I think it was moms, they have a tote that has plastic, um, reusable
Yeah.
cups, plates, forks, knives, napkins that you can check out like a library checkout.
Oh,
And
great.
you can use that for your kid's birthday party or,
Mhm,
whatever kind of party you're having. And then you just wash it, clean it. They ask for a $5 donation, but they said if you can't do that, it's totally fine because, sometimes they have to
mhm,
replace things. And
mhm.
I just thought, what a great way to be able um, to share hospitality laterally, not just up and down.
Right.
I love that
Right,
idea.
right. Yeah,
Um,
my next door neighbor just, texted me. I was out at a thrift store
mhm,
the other day,
mhm,
and she goes, "Sue, could I borrow your ice bucket, or do you have one?" And so
yeah.
that I just put it on my porch, and she comes and gets it, and then, if I need to borrow something from her, I think that's just neighborliness. One thing I wanted to say is I was speaking at an event once, and a workshop on hospitality, and there was a luncheon afterwards, and this young
Mhm.
gal sat down next to me, And she said, "I did not sign up for your hospitality workshop because we're going through a remodel." Now, the Lord gave me the sense and the grace not to say, "Honey, I'm in the middle of a remodel." All I just said,
Right.
but the idea is that when you're entertaining, you're really concentrating more on yourself and you're
Yeah.
impressing people. And when
Right.
you're doing hospitality, you're saying, "Lord," like if you were coming to you and Roger were coming over, I would hope, I would pray, how can I meet their need? And that's
Mhm.
the basis behind
Mm.
hospitality.
Yeah. So what say you have one of your friends coming over, it's 15 minutes, your house is not how you would love it to be.
Yeah.
What would you concentrate on? I know we've talked about the the bathroom and the kitchen, but would you go around with, you know, a laundry basket and pile that in? Would you get the cookies out? Give us a 15-minute plan.
I would take the cookies out, the thing out. I would straighten all my Afghans. I'm an Afghan fiend, and,
Yeah, I'm
when
a
they're
junkie too.
yeah, when they're
Yeah.
draped everywhere, it looks messy. So if I could just I don't like to do it, so that's why they're always draped around, but when I know they're
Mhm.
coming, if I just go around and I fold up 3 or 4 Afghans and fluff the
Mhm.
pillows, then I feel like I'm ready, and then put the coffee on.
Mhm.
Just that little bit helps
Yeah.
me, and then also clear because when I come in from something, I like to have a chair that's hidden from the entryway,
Mhm.
and that's where I put
Mhm.
my neck pillows, my purse, and, let's say
Mm.
coupons for my next thing out. Then it's hidden from people coming in, from seeing it,
Oh,
so it looks
yes.
less I look more ready even though if they have an eagle eye, they'll see that,
But
I should have used a professional.
I think this is actually when I say, "What's your 15-minute plan?" I think, and call me crazy, I think this is more about making you feel comfortable in your space to be hospitable than it is to make sure they're gonna feel comfortable no matter what. And I
Mhm.
mean, unless your house is scary to sit down in, and I
Yeah,
have been in that house before, and you can still be gracious as a human being
me
when you're
too.
in that circumstance because there are other things going on for that person.
That's
But
true.
99.9% of the houses I have been in have been messy, not scary.
Yeah,
And so,
yeah,
it's about you and not
yeah.
having to apologize all the time, et cetera, et
Mhm.
cetera. Because even when we had this party for Susie, I could tell you 15 things I wish I would have gotten to. Nobody else cared.
No
Nobody
one
else
else cared,
noticed.
right? It is about us, isn't it?
Yes. Let
Mhm.
me ask you this. How do you connect with somebody? How do you live that life of invitation when your house is just not in that space? Maybe that Roger and I have been going through a difficult time in this season with me being not healthy. And
Mhm.
so, there are just times it's like, ugh, I would rather not. I would
Right.
just rather not because of my own expectations. What are your favorite third place connection ideas?
I, um, I started doing porch hospitality during COVID because we weren't
Yeah,
allowed to have people in, and so that was a good
right.
restructuring of my mindset, and, where we live, every other house has a huge lemon tree, but the houses in
Mm,
between don't, and so I have
okay.
tons of Meyer lemons. So I just bagged up lemons, and then I printed off, a recipe for my dad's favorite lemon cake and just called it
Oh,
Dad's Favorite Lemon Cake. So it sounded kinda folksy, and I put
right.
my name and my address and my phone number because we have 90 homes, and I don't know everybody.
Yeah, right.
2 cul-de-sacs, and so, and then the people who had lemons, I actually made the cake and put 2 pieces on each porch, and I got the cutest text from this lady. She said, "Sue, you didn't know that today was my 75th birthday," and she was holding the muffin, and she put a candle in it.
Oh,
That makes me cry too. God knew. See, this is the thing, Kathy.
yeah.
God knows who needs it's
Yes.
kind of like not a wink, it's actually being noticed. People call it being
Right.
seen,
Yeah.
but we don't know, and so if you're
Right.
standing in line at the Dollar Tree and someone looks at you and you say, "Hey," you say, "Your hair is so cute," or "That
Mhm.
jacket's so darling." that's an opportunity for them to feel seen, and you're not having
Yeah.
them in your house because you're
Right.
exhausted. Like, I've been
Yes.
exhausted. I go, "Okay, I'm glad everybody's gone." And, in fact, when this girl asked me, "Oh, will you host my brunch?" I thought, "I can do this because I just put away all the Christmas decorations." If she'd asked me the week
Right.
before, it may have been difficult.
Right.
So we have to know ourselves.
Yes, I love that. And guys, I want to give you a couple of micro invitations that are even smaller than those kind of things, just to think about. Um, do you want to sit next to me at church? I
Exactly.
think that that's a beautiful thing. Can I drop soup by your porch? It's a busy day, but I have soup and I would love to drop some by.
Mhm.
Um, text me your hard things. I can pray right now. And
That's
then
good.
think about maybe some shared activities. Maybe you have a friend who is that hostessing. She's the hostess with the mostess, but maybe financially it's a tough time for her right now. Could you team up? Could she have it at her house, but you bring all the crafts for craft
Mhm.
night
That's
or
so great.
something else? Those are some of the ideas. Um, Sue, I'm so excited to read your book. I feel
Thank
like I
you.
know your book anyway because you and I have known each other for so long, and I really do. The title is Never Alone, and of course you guys will have links in the show notes. And you have a couple of resources for people that we will put links in there as well. Can you explain those resources?
I think I sent you, Sue's favorite relaxing recipes, which I've sent you before
Yes.
too, Kathy. I
Yes.
just wanna say that Kathy has been on my podcast 3 times, which is she's the
Mm.
winner, and
Yay!
yay!
Champion!
Yeah.
Champion!
So as her prize, she got a copy of Sue's favorite relaxing recipes, and the reason I put in the word relaxing is because I'm not an uptight cook, and I don't
Mhm.
try fancy things because
Yeah.
it's just too much work. Um, but these are tried and true, and some of them are just for coffee, and some of them for main dishes. And then I think I put in a free resource for 30 conversation starters. Kathy,
Yes.
I have found out from talking to many people who are not my personality, which is great because we're a variety, that
Yeah.
they don't mind cleaning their house, they don't mind decorating, they don't even mind cooking, but they don't know what to say once the person comes to
Yeah.
the door. So these
Yeah.
are 30 tried and true conversation starters to, again, focus on the guest.
Right.
When my kids were little, I taught them to, think of one question they could ask our company. Why? So that
Mhm.
they can learn how to speak to adults. And,
Yeah.
now that they're young adults, they'll say to me, I'll say, "Well, how was the party you went to?" And they'll say, "No one asked me any questions." They're very
Mm.
cued into the fact that they ask other people questions, but no one
Right.
asked me any questions.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, that's what I'm
So,
offering.
I love both of the we will have those in our, show notes along with the link to Sue's book. It's guys, I just know it's a treasure trove. I'm sorry. You know what? Here's the thing.
What?
I have read portions of Sue's book, so I will say what I've read has been wonderful, but I haven't read the whole book. So I always like to be honest about those things, guys, just because you guys know I'm in a hard season and
Yes.
Sue excuses and understands, but I have done enough life with Sue that I know that this is going to be an incredible and valuable resource. Uh, guys, here's my last charge for you. Um, Create the invitation that matches who you are right now.
Amen. Right.
And I know, Sue's whole life is that little summary. Sue, thank you so much for being on the podcast today. You are one of my favorites and you are
Oh,
just a delight. So
thank
thrilled
you.
to have you here today.
Thanks
And
so much.
so guys, check out all of Sue's resources in the show notes. And friends, thank you for being here. You've been listening to Clutter Free Academy. I'm Kathi Lipp. Now, go create the clutter free life you've always wanted to live.
Hmm.